Alright, I'm sorry about having to go into two parts, but I guess since it's my first cartoon flashback episode of 2010 and the first one since June of last year, I guess it's acceptable. But like I was saying, with Animaniacs, the controversy that they had with the character Minerva Mink, like I said, some people felt as though she was too risky, too adult-like, oriented for a kid's cartoon, so she only had two shorts. And like I said, in Tiny Toons, they reintroduced the melting gag, and she was the only one that ended up doing the melting gag in both her solo cartoons. Like I said, the first time she did it was in the middle of her Moon Over Minerva cartoon, which chronologically is her first cartoon, to the point that when she did that gag in that one, she had to be wrung out like a wet towel by Wilfred Wolf in his werewolf form, back to normal. Basically what he had to do is take her like a towel and just go, and just, wring her out like a wet towel, you know what I'm saying? And then in her second cartoon, which was Meet Minerva, towards the end when she does the gag again, she reforms herself into some kind of bullhorn or boat horn or something like that. But anyway, her attitude and the way she came on to the male characters and the way the male characters acted towards her and the way the innuendos, if you will, were acknowledged in there, kind of, like I said, brought controversy to the series. But it wasn't just her. I mean, there was a lot of things in the series that made it controversial, but also made it popular among kids and adults as well. For example, there's an episode where with the Warners, where one of the characters is telling Yakko Wacko Dot to give him the bird, and Yakko's response is, "We would, but the fox censors won't let us." But yeah, it was that kind of stuff that made Animaniacs very, very popular with like I said, with kids and adults. Another thing about it as well is it had some great cast of characters. I mean, one character that was very popular with fans was Slappy Squirrel, because basically she was an original character, but she was supposed to be based off a character. But basically, her background was the fact that she used to be one of the original Looney Tune characters, or Merry Melody characters, and she basically, anything she'd get involved in, any kind of adventure or situation she'd be involved in, she'd basically dig into an old bag of tricks to kind of fix the situation. She'd still have her old adversaries from her cartoon still trying to get her, and get rid of her. In fact, they even did a cartoon where they parodied Siskel and Ebert, and basically they gave thumbs up to sort of like a Laserdisc DVD thing of the Looney Tunes, but when it aimed to the cartoons that had Slappy on there, they basically gave her the thumbs down, or the toes down, and she had to basically give them payback for that. And it was just funny. I mean, that was just payback for basically giving her the thumbs down or the toes down. So, and she also had a nephew named Skippy Squirrel, and Skippy would basically learn from her. And there's even one episode where the censors, the FCC, comes into play and basically targets mainly Slappy by saying, "Hey, we're watching your every move," And this is a situation where Skippy's getting beat up by a bully, and Slappy's like, "Okay, when are you gonna basically come to your senses and rely on what I taught you, not rely on what the school's teaching you, and basically what this counselor at your school is teaching you." And so towards the end, basically, she puts this machine together, which is supposed to teach her or help her learn about anti-violence situations, and she turns it into a machine that basically changes the mind and changes the outlooks of the counselor and the censor guy. So, and also you had a character called Rita, and characters like Rita and Runt. Rita, who was voiced by Bernadette Peters, is basically a musical cat who is looking for a home, and Runt is sort of like the character off Rain Man, portrayed by Dustin Hoffman, who hates cats but is blind to the fact that his best friend is a cat. So, and they go in, and they just end up in a lot of situations. They end up in Egypt, they end up in Las Vegas, I mean, things like that. And every episode, and every cartoon short that they have, and I think they even had one half-hour, and I think they even had one 22 to 30-minute episode dedicated to them. Well, basically, you have songs involved in there as well, where Rita's singing, or Runt's singing, mostly Rita, but still. And overall, she became, I think, like, besides Minerva, I mean, this is the way I look at it. Besides the Warners, the three most popular characters out of there, and they're all female, believe it or not, the three most popular characters out of there were Slappy Squirrel, Rita, I believe, and Minerva. Those were your three popular characters. Even though the females, those were your three popular characters. Oh, and of course you had Pinky and the Brain, who's up there as well. So those are your 4 or 5 top characters besides the Warners. Popular characters besides the Warners. So, and basically Pinky and the Brain, he was basically focused on 2 lab mice, and with one brain, basically, whose main focus was to conquer the world. I mean, think about it. You have this little mouse who wants to take over the world. So, and because they became so popular with their situation, they were spun off into their own series, and then into their own series, and then they had a series with Elmira. Overall, Animaniacs was definitely a show worth watching. I mean, sometimes, like I said, the episodes were controversial, didn't make sense. I mean, they even started an episode back in the late 90s with a parody of the Macarena called Macadamia Nut. So, still, it was, like I said, it was very, very funny, a very good, funny show. And like I said, sometimes it didn't make sense, and that's why some people wouldn't watch it. And there's other characters they had as well. I mean, like Katie Kaboom and the Goodfeathers and Chicken Boo. Katie Kaboom's character was sort of like a parody of how female teenagers are, basically going through all the emotions, and instead of just yelling and kicking and screaming, she turned into these various monsters and all that. In fact, there was one where she turned into various phone-like creatures, telephone-like creatures. It was crazy. So, overall, I mean, Animaniacs was definitely a good show, and Warner Bros. Definitely did a good job with it. Like I said, it was controversial, but that controversy brought in a lot more popularity, a lot more viewers, adults and kids alike. And so, if you have not seen this, I suggest you rent it from Netflix, Blockbuster, or wherever. Buy it, look for it on the YT or wherever. Believe me, you'll like this show. It's very funny, and like I said, it's controversial at times, but that's what brought in the ratings, that's what brought in the viewers. So overall, I definitely suggest you have to watch this, because it was a great series. And also watch Popeye the Sailor Man cartoons if you can find them. Both worth the time to watch, very funny. And really, that's all I'm going to say in my first cartoon flashback episode since June of last year, which is now episode 11, and the first one of 2010. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you all next time. Peace out.